So I know that there are many different forms of gardening, and there are many different ways that people like to garden. I am not specifically set in any way in terms of how we're trying to proceed here, but what I love is the romance of the idea that you can put food in the ground and it will grow. This runs a number of risks in that you can get bugs, you can get fungus and pests and flooding and just all kinds of things. Here in Georgia, at least in the Marietta area where my parents live in their garden, these trees here are mostly pines, a lot of them pines. So you get these, look at this guy, straight into the ground. When this thing falls, it could be falling at, I don't know, 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, right in the ground. So you get things like this, right, where they're standing straight up. And we have a lot of pine straw. The pine straw, too, I recently learned is acidifying. It acidifies the soil. So the soil pH is something that you've got to be considerate of. And what I had here was basically just I'll see if I can find some pictures of what this was before when we got here a year ago. And so what we did was we came in and we tilled up. And I know some people out there are anti-till. Here come the dogs. Here come the dogs. My family, between my sister's family and my parents and me and my wife, there are 4 dogs here with us. So anyway, you'll hear them coming in and out. But what we did here was we tilled and we decided on 4-foot wide beds that would extend all the way back to where the old beds were. The beds that we used to grow okra and things in, which really now don't get a whole lot of sun, especially because they have these Japanese maples and big gardenias, which I'm going to be trimming up a little later. So anyway, this is, it's sort of an experiment, really. Last year, I dug in and I put down a whole bunch of compost and what they call topsoil that we had purchased from our local garden store and our local topsoil supplier. And we ended up growing a great number of foods. We grew peas and bush beans. We grew failed pole beans and failed corn. We grew a number of things, but a lot of stuff did really well here. We actually had some okra come in. We had plentiful cabbages. And this was all in the first year when most of what was down there was clay. So what we're trying to do is cultivate the soil, right? We're trying to, and by cultivate, we mean culture, really, to create a more rich environment, a more varietal, or variety of activity. That's what you want going on in your soil. So I took this tiller of my dad's, and this thing really makes it easy. If you're dealing with a little garden plot like what we have here, this can't be just but a couple of beds, not even really 100 feet. We're using the most of the space, and you don't need a giant tiller to do that. If you can get this little guy, this thing is mighty powerful, and it's a lot of fun to work with. So what I did was I put down bags and bags and bags of topsoil, and I dug them into the ground, and then I went back and I dug out some of those walkways that you see and put them on a slant downward, down toward this sort of catch back here, so that when it rains, this whole area isn't totally swamped. So if I come over here, you can see that the house is sitting on a piece of property that's kind of like, almost like a rice paddy or something. There's these sort of gently rolling, sloping hills, and we live at the edge of one, and that house down there is at the edge of one, and the house beyond that is at the edge of one. So when that happens, you can actually kind of see when rain falls, it falls and it moves toward the house, because the house is at basically the lowest point on the property. So what we're trying to do now is figure out ways to drain out that water, either underground, or capture that water and put it to good use. We've often talked about picking up some cisterns. Maybe I can put that installation process up. But anyway, what we did as soon as we got here last year was my dad, my wife, and I, we dug a trench all the way down to this corner of the yard and put it on a bit of a slope. And then we buried it. We put in a big pipe, and we buried it. And so now when it rains, we can actually come down here to this corner of the yard and watch the water come out that generally would be pooling up around here. Years ago, that gave my parents all sorts of mold and flooding problems. And since they've been doing these renovations, they've been taking care of that sort of thing, and I was happy to be able to help with that.